All right, let's just dive right in. Because today's explainer covers one of the most suspenseful, bizarre, and, honestly, chilling true crime stories in recorded history. We are unpacking the myth, the medical mystery, and the gruesome murder of Grigori Rasputin. I mean, this was a guy who started out as an uneducated Siberian peasant and somehow wandered his way straight into the absolute highest halls of the Russian Empire. By the end of his life, he was so powerful that taking him down required international espionage, a desperate plot by literal royal nobles, and a level of physical endurance that sounds like it was ripped straight out of a horror movie.
So you really have to ask yourself, how exactly does one man survive poison, bullets, and freezing water, all on the exact same night? It's a question that has completely baffled historians and forensic experts for over a century now. Think about it. When the people trying to assassinate you literally throw everything but the kitchen sink at you, and you still refuse to die. Yeah, it's really no wonder people thought he'd made some kind of pact with the devil.
Section 1. Rasputin's legendary death.
Okay, to understand how an entire empire fell, we've got to plunge straight into this century-old cold case. Picture this. It's a bloody night in December 1916, at the incredibly lavish St. Petersburg palace of Prince Felix Yusupov. The Russian Empire is basically bleeding out from World War I, and a group of elite nobles has decided that Rasputin is the dark, puppet master force pulling the strings of the Tsar and Tsarina. They believe the only way to save Russia is to permanently remove him. So, the conspirators lure Rasputin down to a cellar, pretending he's going to meet the prince's beautiful wife. Step 1. They feed him cream cakes and wine laced with enough cyanide to drop several grown men. But nothing happens. According to the conspirators, it has absolutely zero effect. Step 2. Prince Yusupov completely panics, grabs a revolver, and shoots Rasputin right in the stomach. He falls, looks dead, but a few moments later, Rasputin's eyes fly open. He physically attacks Yusupov and scrambles out into the courtyard. Step 3. The assassins chase him down like a horror movie villain, shoot him multiple times, and beat him severely. And finally, Step 4, totally desperate, they tie him up and chuck his body straight into the freezing Neva River.
Just listen to this actual quote from Prince Felix Yusupov's own memoirs from 1928. This devil, who was dying of poison, who had a bullet in his heart, must have been raised from the dead by the powers of evil. I mean, can you even imagine the sheer psychological terror going on there? These men walked in thinking they were just assassinating a corrupt politician, and instead, they felt like they were going toe-to-toe with a literal demon.
But right here is the horrifying forensic detail that drags this whole story from myth right back into cold, hard reality. When Rasputin's body was finally pulled from the river a few days later, police found bloody fingerprints at the edge of the ice hole. Let that sink in. Despite the heavy poison, despite the point-blank gunshot wounds, and despite the savage beating, Rasputin was actually still alive when he hit that freezing water. He was actively struggling, literally clawing his way out from under the ice.
Section 2. Why was he killed?
So we really have to ask the obvious question here. Why on earth did the richest men in Russia, including members of the royal family themselves, go to such extreme, desperate lengths to murder a Siberian holy man? Well, because Rasputin wasn't just some harmless spiritual advisor. He was essentially acting as a massively powerful, deeply corrupt chief of staff to the Tsar. While Tsar Nicholas II was off commanding the Russian army in World War I, Rasputin was back in the capital totally manipulating Tsarina Alexandra. He was firing and appointing ministers whenever he felt like it. He controlled exactly who could even get in the same room as the royal family. He charged thousands of rubles just for political favors. He even played a major role in getting the commander-in-chief of the army dismissed. As you can imagine, the Russian people, and especially the nobles, were absolutely furious.
But here's the kicker. The Tsarina was completely blind to all of his corruption. Look at this actual telegram she sent to her husband, the Tsar, right after Rasputin went missing. She wrote, "I am worried by the awful rumors. Dmitri and Felix are implicated." She was totally devastated. She actually wanted the assassins shot on sight. No trial, nothing. Her devotion to Rasputin was just absolute. And honestly, this blind loyalty is exactly what alienated the royal family from the rest of the entire country.
Section 3. Hemophilia and the medical miracle.
So why was the Tsarina so unbelievably devoted to him? Why would a German princess sitting on the Russian throne basically hand her empire over to a peasant? Well, it all comes down to a really tragic medical mystery. The royal couple had a son, Alexei, who was the sole heir to the Russian throne, and little Alexei suffered from hemophilia B. If you don't know, this is a rare genetic disorder where the blood simply doesn't clot. So a minor bruise, a tiny scratch, or just a bumped knee could cause uncontrollable internal bleeding, leading to a slow, agonizing death. And back then, doctors had absolutely no cure. They were completely helpless, just standing by as they watched this young boy suffer.
Enter Grigori Rasputin. The Tsarina fully believed he was sent by God, because anytime Alexei was on the absolute brink of death, Rasputin would pray, and the boy would just magically recover. So the popular myth is that Rasputin used divine magic to heal the boy. But the actual historical and medical reality? It's kind of mind-blowing. Rasputin simply came in and demanded that the doctors stay away and stop giving Alexei their shiny new miracle drug.
And you know what that miracle drug was? Aspirin. Yep, everyday aspirin. It was brand new and incredibly popular at the time, so the doctors were giving it to Alexei to treat his pain. But as we all know today, aspirin is a blood thinner. It actively makes bleeding much, much worse. The royal doctors were literally, albeit unknowingly, poisoning the boy. By simply walking into the room, telling everyone to calm down, and kicking the doctors and their medicines out, Rasputin accidentally removed the aspirin. So the big takeaway here is, it wasn't magic at all. It was just the accidental avoidance of a harmful drug that saved the kid's life. But to the Tsarina, it was a literal miracle, and it cemented Rasputin's total control over the Russian Empire.
Section 4. Yusupov's assassination plot.
All right, knowing all of that, the motive for the assassination suddenly becomes crystal clear. The Russian nobles are watching their country completely fall apart under the sway of a guy they view as a dangerous charlatan. So let's look at the VIP list of conspirators involved that night in Yusupov's cellar. We've got Prince Felix Yusupov, Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich, a prominent politician named Vladimir Purishkevich, a doctor to provide the cyanide, and an army captain named Oswald Rayner. Hang on a second, look closely at that last name. What in the world is an English army captain doing in a secret, late-night plot to kill a Russian monk?
Section 5. The involvement of MI6 spies.
Okay, this brings us to a seriously shocking modern twist in this century-old cold case. Turns out, this wasn't just some messy domestic political assassination. We're talking about high-stakes international espionage. See, for decades, the official story was just that the Russian nobles acted completely alone. But fast forward to 2004, and a former Scotland Yard detective named Richard Cullen actually launches a modern forensic investigation into the whole thing. He looks at crime scene photos, contemporary police reports, witness testimonies, the whole shebang, and he uncovers a massive buried secret. The British Secret Intelligence Service, literally MI6, was up to its neck in the torture and murder of Rasputin.
Now, you might be wondering, why? Well, Britain and Russia were allies in World War I, and Rasputin was aggressively advising the Tsarina to pull Russia out of the war and just make peace with Germany. The British simply could not let that happen. The absolutely explosive conclusion of this 2004 investigation is that it wasn't Prince Yusupov or the Grand Duke who finally ended the unkillable monk. The forensic evidence strongly points to the British Secret Service officer Oswald Rayner, stepping up and delivering the final, fatal bullet right to the center of Rasputin's forehead.
But here is the ultimate tragic irony. Did the assassination actually save the empire? No. It took exactly one single month, just 1 month after Rasputin's body was pulled from the ice, for the Romanov Empire to completely and totally collapse. In the February Revolution of 1917, the Tsar was forced to abdicate the throne. By trying to save the monarchy through this incredibly brutal assassination, the conspirators actually just accelerated its total destruction.
Section 6. Rasputin in pop culture.
Look, you simply cannot have a true story featuring supposed magic, royal blood diseases, cyanide, British secret agents, and the spectacular fall of an empire without it leaving a massive mark on the world. Rasputin's legacy as the Mad Monk birthed this incredible pop culture legend. I mean, we've got everything from the wildly catchy 1978 disco hit by Boney M, you know the one, to his portrayal as a literal demonic sorcerer in the animated movie Anastasia. He's the resurrected villain trying to summon the apocalypse in Hellboy, and he's been played on screen by absolute legends like Christopher Lee and Alan Rickman. He has permanently become our go-to archetype for the unkillable mystic villain.
So, what are we left with? Healer, political threat, or legend? Who was Grigori Rasputin really? Was he just a simple peasant who accidentally saved a little boy's life and got way in over his head? Or was he a deeply corrupt mastermind who knowingly destroyed an entire empire just to line his own pockets? Or is he mostly a figure constructed by the enemies who ended up writing his history? The facts we have are definitely chilling enough on their own, but it's pretty clear that the myth of Rasputin is going to outlive us all. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and remember, always keep questioning the history you think you know.